Welcome to Live and Flip Lifestyle. So I picked up this home not long ago and I'm remodeling a washroom. It appears they were going to make a small studio apartment down here. You got a stove, a sink, a bathroom that way, closet. So now we're just outside the washroom. There's the door I want to move, and here is where it will land. Right here. How convenient. It's right in the hallway. Washroom door. Closet door, upstairs, garage, all in one area. So here's the flow as you enter. If you open the door all the way, you're blocking an outlet. If you're on the way out with a basket. So it's not user friendly, and I think we can do better. So here's where the door's going to land, and I'm thinking there's a stud here in the corner, so I want to find the next one, which I did. So I cut out a small hole, see what we're dealing with. It's insulated, not sure why, and I looked all around for any wiring. I'm good there. So to find where I'm at on the outside, I drilled a hole right through there, put my wire in. So here's the wire. And this wall's pretty thick. So this is where the door's going to land. Then we got this bump out, which changes a few things. So when you're installing a door, be mindful to leave enough room for trim. And you need about 2.5 inches. That's what this line represents. And that's the beginning of the rough end. The door will be 30 inches, but the rough end will be greater. Here's an example of leaving enough room for the trim. They've got plenty of room there. So about 2.5 inches for the trim. And you can always leave a little bit more. Leaving a little extra room might look better so your trim's not pressed right up against the wall. However, if you need the space, like I do, I'm going right up against the wall. So here's an example of not enough room for trim. Under 2 inches. So you would have to rip a piece of trim to put in there. But it would never match the rest of the trim. But first I'd like to address this bump out. It's uneven, and I like having a smooth transition. I could fill this area with drywall, so it'd be smooth right across here and have to go the whole way. Then I'd have to put a corner in. I'd much rather see if I could remove this 2x4 and mud this area in and be flush across here. Plus it'll be a little bit wider. What I'd really like is a smooth transition the whole way. Remove this 2x4. See what's behind here, but I gotta make sure it doesn't affect the beam. Come back to here, go flat all the way across. Then I could position the door right where I want it to be. The whole corner. Drywall and everything came out. So what I just removed is referred to as the jack stud for this header. And this one here is the king stud, which goes the whole way up. And I think I'm going to stop right here because you're talking a whole lot more work through here. Plus dealing with the beam. This 2x4 here is supporting that beam. Let me show you. Sometime in the past, a lolly column was removed and they widened the beam to carry the weight of the span. And this stud right here is supported with the 2x4 in this wall. So I'm going to leave this area alone. I'll chop those nails off. Nice. So what I'm going to do is use the new door as a template. Get it situated where I want it. Draw it about 1/8 inch to 1/4 inch all the way around to give it room for shims. It's rare, but sometimes it happens where a home is perfectly level. And it's not. I gotta go up a little bit, so I'll level the door and then trace the outline. So with any project I do, I strive for perfection. So we're starting at perfect. So there's that line I drew at 2.5 inches. I decided to go 3 to give it a little breathing room. And that's 3 inches, including the drywall from the finished stud, from there to there. Standard procedure for a rough-in is to leave 1/4 inch gap around the door. And this square is right in line with my line. So we want 1/4 inch out. So what I'm going to do, I believe a pencil is 1/2 inch wide, 1/4 inch this direction. So I could just lay that flat on the door and get my 1/4 inch. But when I put the line there, there's no way that's 1/4 inch. So I've sharpened the pencil on an angle to give me more room in that direction. And if I put it flat here and draw a line, that's a nice 1/4 inch right there. So I'm going to do that all the way around. You got 2 inches of trim to cover any imperfections. Roto zip would be ideal. I don't have one, so I'll use a Sawzall or a multi-tool to cut this line all the way through. And then this side I'll scar with a utility knife and snap. So I've already checked on the other side for any obstructions, electrical, plumbing, cable, phone. However, when you do the cut, you just want to pierce through the drywall in case of any unknowns. And I'll do a plunge cut where you keep your saw on an angle and it will pierce right through there. Plus there's wall studs back there. Just realize I can't snap that joint, I can't push inward. So I'll just cut it with a knife. All the way through. Wow, snug, it's tight. This thing's really tight. Well, no duh, it's screwed to the bottom plate. That should make a difference. I want it in one piece. Less mess. Whoa, it's 2 halves. Wow, it's screwed here as well and nailed. No wonder it wouldn't come out. Do one of these numbers. And maybe it's glued. And there's a nail. All right, one piece this time. Nice. There's a nail right here. All right. No wires, no obstruction. So to cut the inner wall, I'll use this as a guide with my blade. Except I ran into a dilemma. It's not long enough to pierce through the other side of the wall. So I got a longer blade, and this is a wood blade. You can use it on drywall. It'll cut faster. It just dulls it quicker. This here is a hacksaw blade. And I made a discovery. Is a sheet of paneling and then drywall behind it, so the saw blade will work better. Oh my God! Look at this! The blade got squirrely. How'd that happen? Well, duh. You used a thin blade. So what happened here is, one, I'm way out here, and there's not enough support. The blade's not wide enough. And it can go this way or that way, and once it tilts this way, or the other way, it just takes off on you. So next time I'm definitely going to have to use a different technique. One thing that would have worked very well is a nice wide big hand saw. It's rigid and it's not going to move on you. Then we got this piece here that dislodged itself from the wall, either when I was cutting it or when I went through the wall. I'm not sure. I missed a base when I originally laid this out. I should have seen I could have went straight to the wall and never even done this cut and just put a new piece in right here. So this little notch right here was the original hole I cut to investigate for wires. And then I got that bad cut I just did. So the way I'm going to fix this is cut from here, over, and down, replace that whole piece. So it adds a little bit more work to the project. However, I view it as a learning curve and what not to do next time. So we're going to need to remove these two studs. We want to cut it above the drywall, the thickness of a 2x4. We're going to run a 2x4 across here as a nailer for the drywall and trim. So you bring it up flush with the bottom of the drywall and then draw your line. We'll make a plunge cut. Before I make this cut, how do we determine if this is a load-bearing wall? Right above it is a beam, and all the joists run this way and rest on this beam. So this beam is supporting the joists and carrying the load of the walls and everything above it. This beam runs the entire length of the house and is supported with lolly columns. Let me give you an example. Here's the beam outside of the washroom that we just looked at. Here's where the lolly column was removed. Floor joists run this way, so this wall is not load bearing. Beam comes straight through here. Lolly column. Lolly. So this area would represent a prime example of the wall I'm working on. Let's say you wanted to put a full wall in here and then install a door. There's no weight, so no need for a header. So I've switched back to the fine-tooth hacksaw blade. Found a wood blade. Nice. I'll be removing the plate next. However, there's no chance of stepping on a nail, and there's no chance of that nail messing with me later, throwing it in the burn pit. Yeah! No anchors, just hitting the tile here. Here's an anchor. Wow! There's an anchor that close. That's loose. I'll have to put an anchor in that one. Wow, this is nice. Straight in, workstation, straight to the sink, do your business over there, get your laundry basket, straight up the steps, upstairs. So I got a change of plan here. Instead of cutting across here, I'm going to have a drop ceiling, so I'll just cut straight up, whole piece. Gone. So all this lumber is acting like a lolly column supporting the beam. And there's an actual lolly column right here where that plate is. It comes right down here. Down here I'm missing a piece. So I was going to replace from here down and then smooth over any imperfections in this area. And then it dawned on me. I could take a 4x8 sheet, turn it lengthwise, and replace the whole sheet. Well, no duh. You should have realized that from the beginning. I'm willing to bet you're not very competitive in a game of chess. Why don't you rip out that paneling as well? Get rid of that mold. Go all the way, pull a Matt Reisinger, and replace everything. That's a great idea. Lolly column. Now I can easily move this outlet over to accommodate that door. Some plumbing. So since this wall is anchored and this one is not, you want to take a straight edge and go from the finished wall to the finished wall and make sure it's in line. I've created a large gap for demonstration. And you just keep this flat against this wall and move it over until it meets. Now we're ready to put the anchor in. So I will be using a Tapcon, has a Torx head, and then you're going to need a masonry bit
and a drill with the hammer feature, and I'll drill right through the wood and sink this thing all the way down. That will really make a difference in the end, so your trim lays flat. Ready for the studs, each side of the door. From the bottom plate to the top plate. You guys can handle that, right? Nice! This stud here is the hinge side of the door, so you want it level, and you don't want any bows. Level this way. This here needs to be strengthened. So you need a piece to fit in that gap. Something to put in there. You could shim it. Make it nice and tight the whole way down. Got some fill here. Here. Screwed everything together. Made it nice and rigid. Top plate. Ready for drywall. I see you're installing the blue board. Yeah, well, there's a good chance Matt is snooping around. Well, in that case, you need to replace all the drywall. I heard that. Why don't you make yourself useful? Replant your footing and hit this area with kills. What's with the mix match? You know what? Keep it up. McDonald's is hiring. The Reisinger crew won't have you. Do me a favor and throw some mud on that wall. So I finally got the door opening. Back to square one. Ready for the door. Also, you want to consider your flooring. I'm just going to have vinyl plank or vinyl sheet, so I got plenty of room. But if you're going to have tile or carpet, then you just raise the whole door upward. So the next thing we want to achieve is to get this flush with the drywall all the way around. You need some type of jacking device. You can use shims. The pump pillow is the best because you can pump it and check with a level at the same time. And that's why it's important to get your 2x4 as level as possible before installing the door. That way, it should be level. I just need to tap in the bottom a little bit. Nice! So I'm going to fasten with a finish nail. You can use a screw, but then you got to drill and then have a countersink hole to hide the screw. Or remove the stopper. Put your screws in and then put this over top to hide the screws. However, I could put a finish nail here, remove this screw, put a longer screw in for extra security. Nice! Now if you want a countersink, you get another nail, a little bit bigger would be better, and you put it right on that dot on the head. It's made just for that purpose, to countersink it. Another aspect, a smooth shank finish nail has a tendency to pull out. However, if you put one in this area, it counteracts and the door cannot move. Okay, this is nice and flush. Now we check level on this area, which it needs to come out. Nice. So I'm not going to install the nail the whole way in case we need adjustments. Wow, it's rubbing at the top. Whoa. Huh? Alright, we're going to need some adjustments. Look at that. It took off some of the primer. So I'm going to have to get this pulled upward. And then we need an 1/8 inch gap all the way around. So I'm flush with the wall here and here. And then you want to make sure this is perfectly level. That way when you close the door, there's no gap on the doorstop. I'll be using drywall screws. One thing nice about screws, just remove them for adjustments. Noise! So before you get too many fasteners in there, check the door for level. And it should stay level the whole swing, which it does. Doesn't move anywhere. Nothing worse than a door when you open it and then it takes off like that. I installed an old door handle to make sure the latch lines up. So now all I gotta do is shim it. Here I've got a pack of shims, $4.37. So we're going for an 1/8 inch gap, and you put these in evenly, like such. So you put one through till it comes out the other side, and then slide one beside it. And it just pushes that door in till you get an 1/8 inch gap. Look at that, we're getting there. Tap each side. So this gap is looking uniform. I like to go a little bit larger than an 1/8 because we're going into the summer months and it's going to swell. Nothing worse than a rubbing door. However, see how that's got some play in it? That's because the 2x4 is cocked. So you get another shim to take up that leeway. Snug everything up. This one here's got the same thing. And this one at the bottom has 2 thicks and then one in between it, spreading them out both directions. So do whatever you need to do to get that line uniform. I like putting the shims just above the screw. Here's the shim, here's the screw. Snug that up. Same here, screw, shim, and so on. Final test. Looks good. Now we'll cut the shims. Scar and snap. At this point, it's ready for trim, and that would be a whole other video. Nice and tight all the way up here. I'd like to thank everyone for watching. Hope this has helped someone. And if you'd like to see how to install no-code corners on this entire area, or see how I get this ceiling back in shape, do some patchwork, mud and tape, I'll provide a link right here, over there,